Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great week so far. Welcome to another episode of Narad News. Let's jump straight into it, guys. We're going to discuss something that is still evolving and by no means completely sorted out yet because we're going to discuss oil prices. And oil prices won't be sorted out till the whole war in Iran is sorted out. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention on how fast the situation is evolving. And then I'm going to discuss some of my own thoughts on where this is actually going and why I feel so, right? So on 9th of March, we had this headline. I think this one's taken from CBC, if I'm not wrong. G7 won't release oil reserves yet to quell surging prices amid Iran war. So just 3 days ago, G7 had a fair bit of confidence that this war is not going to go very long, right? So everyone felt that the reserves need not be, left out in the market. Now, what has happened since then is, and let me show you guys. There we go. The second one was, this was 10th. Gas prices should drop by Thursday. That is today. US President has assured the Strait of Hormuz will remain open for oil shipments. Right? And now, let me bring up the third one. This was yesterday. So I wanted to do this live yesterday, but I just couldn't get to it. But here it is. This is I pulled this article down yesterday morning, Pacific time. So I mean, in the rest of the G7 and even on the East Coast, it was you were getting into the mid-morning afternoon time frame, except Japan, of course. But anyway, G7 welcomes potential record release of oil reserves as prices surge, right? Now, if you read the story, you'll basically see that, okay, 300 to 400 million barrels of crude oil reserves are being released. That amounts to 3 to 4 days of the global oil requirement. Let that sink in, everyone. 3 to 4 days of global oil requirement. Or maybe it's just the G7 oil requirement. Maybe. I'll take a look. But anyway, it doesn't amount for much. That's the point. Right? Now, the other point this story highlights is this is the release of crude oil. This is not refined oil which is suitable for your car. So you release all this sort of capacity, and of course the oil prices are surging, so we know that the refining capability is there, right? Now, obviously it takes a few days for the supply to normalize, and then you see the prices drop. And obviously this doesn't help much in the sense that, okay, you release about 3 to 4 days. Psychology doesn't necessarily work this way, right? Okay, you release oil supply or strategic oil reserves which are worth 4 days. So everyone is trying to get some oil into their car or vehicle in the next 4 days, or whenever this oil makes it to the gas stations or petrol pumps, whichever part of the world you live in, right? So the price will still be high. It's not going to go down because 4 days later, no one wants to go just because, hey, there'll be a shortage again. So I think all of these initiatives are well intentioned, But in terms of what they achieve, I personally feel very little, right? Let me prove my point. So let's go here. Let's go to Safari. What do I have? So here, this is a gas station in the Vancouver area. Today, octane 87 is $1.84 to a liter, right? Let me, okay, let me unlock this. Yeah. So this is 184 and this is octane 87. So at this point, I'm willing to bet that octane 89, 91, 93, they are way above $2. I'm pretty sure even 89 is above $2. And by the time you're getting into the 91s, 93s, you're maybe even about 240, 250, right? Yeah, so this is, I wouldn't say this is at the peak of the post-COVID inflation, but we are sort of halfway there, right? It's actually been a while since I saw such high gas prices, almost a year, I think, since I saw such a high gas price. This is in Vancouver. So some of the suburbs will probably have a higher price tag just because, you're getting into the upper middle class, condo owners, those type of people. And yeah, they have a higher spending capability, and you do tend to see about 4 to 5 cents higher as you move into the suburbs. But as soon as you cross sort of, I would say, Langley, Abbotsford, even Surrey, actually, Surrey is typically as expensive as Vancouver. And then by the time you're in Abbotsford, it's like, it's about 10 cents cheaper and whatnot. So I think here's my 2 cents on this topic, right? It's not like we just need to be prepared for this here. This whole year, expect crude to actually just get more and more expensive. Let me show you guys what the Brent crude chart has looked like for the past 5 days. Oh, okay, it's in this one only. So today we kind of wrapped up the day at 101 USD. This is Brent, Western Texas. Let me see. I'm curious now. Western Texas crude oil price. Oh, okay. Oil price charts. So yeah, okay. WTI slightly cheaper, 95. Brent 99. And yeah, everyone's kind of hovering in that range. It did go up as high as 120, and I think that's when this whole decision came in that, okay, let me go back a couple of screens. This is Brent. So we are down again below 100, but I guess that doesn't mean much. But 5 days, right? So here is where it, spiked up to about 115 on March 9th. And then, the news comes in that, okay, this is going to drop. And that's why on March 11th, we have sort of hit the lowest we have in the past 5 days. I guess for a short while, we did got pretty close to 80 on Tuesday. So let me put my thoughts on this. Oil is going to be expensive for the rest of the year. In fact, it might probably stay as expensive even into the next year. And the reason for that is I just don't see an end in sight as the news cycle is claiming. And the reason for that is every time we have seen such an operation happen, regime change operation happen, it's not a cookie cutter recipe. All the news cycle, all the statements, all the claims that are made by the politicians, the parties involved, they are strategically made to ensure that the panic stays low. right? I'm also not advocating that everyone, start panicking and, you know, lose your brains, because you you go to a gas station, it's not going to be cheap. The only the only thing I can suggest is, this is going to be a year of tightening belts in that sense. Just because oil will have a percolating effect, you know, downstream of the whole supply chain. Everything requires oil. Even if your value creation process does not require oil, your finished product, for it to end up on a shelf in a superstore, will require oil in some form or the other, will require transportation, which in turn requires oil. So we will see more inflation. We will see prices go up. We will see, especially in the Western world, cost of living go up. And we're just going to have to brace for that. I think for the past 1 year, 1.5 years or so, at least here in Canada, we enjoyed a low inflation environment. I mean, we were hovering between 2 to 3. Could we be lower? Perhaps. An argument could be made that we didn't really clean up the COVID mess, and now we are in this one. And I agree with all those sentiments. Well, all I'm saying is this is where we are as of now. If you guys go read up on what Canada's stance is on having reserves, well, Canada doesn't have any, even though G7 countries are required to have a 90-day reserve. Canada actually does not have any official reserves kept in, right? We could ramp up a little bit of production, but we all know how that's met in this country. At this point, I've always advocated that I'm not sure how to frame this, but okay, I think as a country, we need to understand what our strengths are. Canada is a gold mine of minerals, natural resources, non-renewables, and a fair bit of renewables. For us, energy should not even be a problem. 41 million people with the stash that we're sitting on, it should never even be a question. And of course, there is no excuse for not capitalizing on our strengths. And this is, the whole news cycle is constantly churning about what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz and how Canadian oil prices get affected by that, right? Meanwhile, we are sitting on, and I did this a few lives ago. I'll try to find that link and put it in the description. But we are, I think, sitting on the 4th largest oil reserves in the world. If there's any country who can pretty much in perpetuity or till the day oil is relevant can have $1 a liter, it's actually Canada. But no, there's too much ideology and too little economics, right? I do see this current administration doing a lot of things in the right direction, but again, you can't fix something like this overnight. It's gonna take time, which then takes me back to my earlier point. Just buckle up, guys. We're gonna just have to, ride this one out to the best of our abilities. And especially for the rest of this year, don't expect oil prices to go down in any meaningful way. This engagement, war, interaction, whatever word you want to put it, between Israel and Iran, and then obviously US is, US is taking the lead on the Allied side on these things, is not going to finish anytime soon. Russia also thought that they could go into Ukraine and, do what they needed to do and be done in like a week. That never happened, right? We're still seeing that one continue on and on and on. I'm not going to get into who should win, who was right, who was wrong. That's not the point of this conversation. The point is, you get into a war, they don't end quickly. And anyone in the world who thinks that this is just a week long job, forget it, not going to happen. Venezuela was not a war. Venezuela was just a pointed single operation of replacing the leader. Not a regime change, not an attack on the whole country. For those of you who are going to try and compare this to Venezuela, forget it. There is no comparison. There is absolutely nothing similar here. Second, right now we are seeing a no boots on the ground approach, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be that way. But to try and effect a change, a sweeping change in leadership, by just using the air route is probably going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible to execute. For anyone who doubts what I'm saying, take a look at the topographical map of Iran, right? Very mountainous, very hilly. 70% of the country has some sort of a mountainous region on it. It's very difficult. People can go hide in those mountains. Where they will fire from, where they will shoot from, it's crazy. If anyone thinks that I'm just making this up, well, as all of you know, I'm a person of Indian origin. India and Pakistan had a fight in the late 90s, I think 1999. It was called the Kargil conflict. By military classification standards, it's considered a limited conflict. But that time, the Pakistani side had the advantage. They were sitting on the mountaintops. And yeah, all the military officials said, in fighting a battle uphill, where you're trying to capture strategic posts on top of a mountain and you have to climb up, the ratio is 1:9 or 1:10. For every one person sitting and shooting from the top of a mountain to someone climbing up, you can expect, unfortunately, up to 9 people either being injured or martyred. So I think it is a strategic choice on the US side to not have boots on the ground. Because if I, watching some news channels, have gathered these, sort of rules of thumb, this is the US military, they know this. Maybe the technology differential, the technology gap is enough to reduce that to some extent. I just don't think it's going to get 1:1. No way. I think a little bit of a miscalculation, in my opinion, has been eliminating a large swath of the leadership. Fine, you get rid of the supreme leader. I can't deny that that's a safe thing to do. But if you get rid of the entire leadership, then whom are you going to have a conversation with? I'm pretty sure there is parts of this thing I don't understand. So, of course, there is a new leader in place. And of course, this is a highly evolving situation, so only time will tell. Anyways, guys, I think that's my primary message for the day. That, just going back to the New Year podcast that we did on Wasted Wanderers, I remember we made our thumbnail saying, not so happy New Year 2026. And yeah, we're kind of seeing that Again, I'm not trying to say that it's all doom and gloom, but I'm trying to say that it's gonna be a roller coaster ahead, and let's stay together through this. All right, guys, we will closely track the situation and we'll keep bringing you the latest. Moving, or I guess starting this week onwards, and especially from next week, you will see me on a more dedicated schedule. So I'll show up once on Monday, once on Thursday, and then on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you're gonna see shorts on the channel. And then, of course, one day of the weekend, we'll do the Wasted Wanderers podcast on that channel, and it'll parallelly stream here as well. So, yeah, trying to get more discipline, trying to get more support from everyone on this. Please do like, share, and subscribe. If you like what you see, please do comment and help us get our voice to as many people as possible. Thank you and have a great day, guys. See you over the weekend on Wasted Wanderers. Bye bye.